You're trying to find that good low value buy right now in Dynasty. You're scouring every single team, even scouring the waiver wires, and say, "Dang, who is the guy out there? Who's the hidden gem? Who's that guy I can get on the low right now?" And for me, that guy is David Bell. He's currently ranked in the community as wide receiver 62. He is my wide receiver 43. And let me tell you, there's only two words that the reason why we should be revitalizing his name, the reason why we should be bringing his name back up in conversation, and that's because of Deshaun Watson. I understand all the legal stuff has happened. That's technically already settled. He's suspended for 11 games. He was fine. All we know, Deshaun Watson is coming back after week 11, week 12. Week 12, he's coming back and he's going to be starting. Once Deshaun Watson gets back onto the field, everyone's value on that team is going to skyrocket. Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb, David Njoku. I mean, I think we've already seen a little bit of a rise in value for some of these guys just knowing that Deshaun Watson is going to be coming back here very, very soon. So take a journey with me about David Bell. If you don't know who David Bell is, he's a 6'2" wide receiver coming out of Purdue. I mean, he broke out as a true freshman, 86 receptions, over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. I mean, that was fantastic his first year. In the 2022 class before the NFL draft, in our pre-draft analysis, he was my wide receiver 6. I loved everything about him. I compared him to Allen Robinson. He was the guy. I thought he could be lined up in the slot anywhere. He was a contested catch guy, but then the value just dropped. The NFL Combine happened. He ran a 4.65, and he went in the 3rd round. And we were like, well, he was projected to be a first or early 2nd round. Goes in the 3rd round. He had a terrible combine, was dropping balls, and ran a super slow 40, which, mind you, Allen Robinson also ran a 4.65 or 4.64. So very similar guys, very similar body. Oddly enough, he falls all the way to the 3rd round. And then he just disappears. He disappears off the face of the earth, and nobody wants anything to do with David Bell. Even with Deshaun Watson and everyone knowing about Deshaun Watson, that he's going to be suspended for 11 games, no one still wants anything to do with David Bell and this team. But let me tell you some reasons why you should believe in him, because some stuff that I have here is fantastic. As a freshman, 86 receptions, over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. And as a junior, he finished 93 receptions, over 1,200 yards and 6 touchdowns as a junior, and was an early declare. And as early declares, you do have a higher hit rate as a wide receiver. But I think if you are getting a guy in David Bell in the 3rd round, I think it's fantastic. Another thing I want to say, Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, on day 3 was like, "We are not ending this day without getting David Bell." That's literally was his quotes. And I think that the fact that they were so excited to get a guy like David Bell in the 3rd round, that when he was coming into the draft process, he was my wide receiver 6. I mean, I saw the vision, I saw the talent. I do believe he still has a perfect opportunity to be a fantasy relevant wide receiver. So why not get him right now at the lowest price possible? And we know what Deshaun Watson can do. He has produced fantasy relevant wide receivers left and right with DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller. And Will Fuller, I mean, in 2018, Deshaun Watson, Will Fuller was his wide receiver 2. He was a top 15 wide receiver from weeks 2 to 8 before his injury. That could be David Bell with more consistent, with no injuries, hopefully, if his career takes him that way. He's a great wide receiver. He has great size. He's produced 35% dominator rating, which means a total yards and total touchdowns of his offense, which I believe is fantastic. I mean, he can produce when he's on the field. Once again, smooth route runner. He's a guy that is going to be in the middle of the field for Deshaun Watson when Deshaun Watson comes back. And if you can get him before Deshaun Watson gets back, and everyone's saying, hey, David Bell's the guy to get right now, Deshaun Watson is going to make him fantasy relevant, it's going to be too late. I'm pretty sure you can send a third round right now for David Bell, a late 3rd, a mid 3rd, an early 3rd, or maybe even a late 2nd potentially if you want to take that chance. I think that's a little bit too much, but I'm willing to take that chance on getting David Bell right now. These are some guys I'm willing to trade away for David Bell, maybe that you can potentially get. Can you trade away Adam Thielen and get David Bell and maybe some draft picks? Can you swap with someone like a John Mechie who's been injured, a Tyquan Thornton, Wan'Dale Robinson potentially, a Michael Gallup? These are all guys I'm willing to get David Bell, trying to trade away and get David Bell, and maybe get some more. Maybe you can get a David Bell in the 2nd for Michael Gallup, hypothetically, or David Bell in the 3rd for Michael Gallup. You know, can you send a Robert Woods, a Jacoby Myers? These are some guys that I'm really, really confident in sending to get David Bell. And another thing I want to say, I understand that we're all talking about Deshaun Watson and he's going to come back in 11 weeks. But there's also a chance that Jacoby Brissett could be a competent quarterback and, you know, lead this team to a couple wins and actually have a good connection with David Bell. And I think if we see that rise, even with Jacoby Myers, how much higher is his value going to be when Deshaun Watson's on the field? And I think we want to just avoid the massive rise in value in David Bell right now before anything happens. David Bell's clearly in a position to be the wide receiver 2 on this team right behind Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is the only wide receiver in Cleveland who has ever cleared 60 targets in an NFL season. There is no doubt in my mind that's going to happen when Deshaun Watson comes back for Amari Cooper and even potentially for David Bell. We saw in preseason where he caught 6 or 7 targets in 2 games. And that was with Jacoby Brissett. And the last thing I want to bring to your attention is that the Browns don't have a first-round pick for the next 2 to 3 years. Let's remember that they just paid and made Deshaun Watson the highest paid quarterback in the NFL and gave up future draft capital to acquire him. You're not going to be seeing a first-round draft pick coming into this team and saying, all right, thank you so much, David Bell, move down to wide receiver 3. No, David Bell is going to be the wide receiver 2 potentially for the next 2 to 3 years, unless they do trade out for a big wide receiver, a big name wide receiver, which I find it hard to believe because there's going to be a lot of people that they're going to have to pay on the defensive side of the ball. And there's going to be a lot of people that they might have to pay on the offensive side of the ball. So if everything works out, David Bell could be the wide receiver 2 of the future, maybe even the wide receiver 1 if Amari Cooper has a massive fallout, and then we're fine with Deshaun Watson there. So if you can get him right now, he's going in the late 17th round in your dynasty startups, maybe even going undrafted in some leagues, maybe in your rookie drafts if you still have some out there. I doubt it. He was going in the third round, end of the third round. I think that's still great value for David Bell. Once again, wide receiver 63 according to community. At his peak value before the NFL draft, he was wide receiver 40. Now he's wide receiver 62 according to the community. So if you can get him as that right now for late third, maybe early fourth, drop some players, swap some players, some old veteran players, whatever the case may be. I am ecstatic to get David Bell right here, right now for our leagues. Let me know if you like this take. Let me know if I missed anything out. Let me know what you think about Zach's take as well. He did a take. Make sure you go check that out. He did Treylon Burks. I did David Bell. Cannot wait for the season. Good luck this year. All love.
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos,
watch it.
You can also subscribe
right now
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLand fam.